Hi, I'm going to be comparing and contrasting my Universal versus Gracey. I'm going to be using my Columbia 1314 Universal and my Gracey Anterior 1-2, my Gracey Mesial 11-12, and Gracey Distal 13-14. All of these instruments are similar in ways such as they remove calculus subgingivally. They all have a handle, shank, and a working end. All these instruments have a toe and a blade. Another thing in common with all four instruments, when we are close to the tooth, we're going to be 0 to 40 degrees. I'm going to start off with my Graceys. All of my Graceys are area-specific, self-angulating curettes. We're going to start with my Gracey 1314, which is area-specific to distal surfaces only. The correct working end is going to be V to the D. So we go interproximally and make sure that shank is V to the D. The correct working angle is that the terminal shank is always parallel to the long axis of the tooth. This instrument has two blades with one working blade on each end. With this Gracey, the angle between the terminal shank and the face of the blade is 70 degrees. So the correct working order would be distal line angle, and then you're going to rock 12 to 15 strokes all the way distally to the interproximal. So to utilize this instrument, we close 0 to 40 degrees, insert open away 70 degrees, and activate at the distal line angle. We're going to activate with controlled overlapping short strokes with moderate to firm pressure against the tooth surface. We always start at the most posterior tooth and work our way forward. Next, we have our Gracey 11-12, which is for mesial surfaces only. That means this is an area specific that cleans the mesial side, aka the front of the tooth. This does have two blades with one working blade on each end, just like our Gracey 1314. So, to find the correct working ends posteriorly, we're going to make sure that terminal shank is the V to the D. And the terminal shank is always parallel to the long axis of the tooth. We're going to point this instrument mesially, start at the mesial line angle, close 0 to 40 degrees, insert open, and rock mesially. Remember to always rock and roll. Just as I said for the Gracey 1314, for the 11-12, we're going to start at the most distal tooth, the most posterior tooth, and work our way forward. So it's only on the mesial aspect of the tooth, which is area specific. Now, we're going to go on to our Gracey anterior, our Gracey 1-2. This instrument is only for the anterior teeth. The correct working ends, there's only one working blade. We identify it by the lowest blade. When we are activating, we close towards the tooth, insert, open away, and the angle of the blade to the shank is 70 degrees. We're going to look at the handle. So again, this is area specific, and we're going to work from canine to canine towards, and then away, we're going to do canine to canine as well. Note that when we can't see the face of the blade, that means this is the correct working end. We're always going to use the side of the tip, a little bit of the toe into the gingiva. So there's one blade at each end that works, which is the lowest blade on this instrument. Lastly, we have our Universal Columbia 1314. It's very similar to our 204S, but it has a rounded toe versus the tip that the 204S has. This universal is used for all aspects of the teeth. We can do it on mesial ends, distal ends, anterior, everything. This instrument has 2 blades, 1 on each end. We have a rounded toe. When we are using this, the correct working angle with posterior teeth would be that the terminal shank is turned towards the long axis of the tooth, 10 to 20 degrees. Just like our other posteriors, we're going to always check our working end by the V to the D. We're going to always make sure when we're on the maxillary, we always have to pivot when we're opening 60 to 80 degrees. Typically, when we're on cementum, we open 60 to 70, and enamel is 70 to 80 degrees. And lastly, when we're on anteriors, we always look for the bump to the tooth, the instruments hugging the tooth, or the Pac-Man method, which I love. So we're always going to close towards the tooth, 0 to 40 degrees, insert open away, 60 to 80 degrees, and remember to look at the handle for the angle. I personally love this instrument. It's very easy to utilize. So this was my comparing and contrasting of all of my instruments, my Universal versus my Gracey's.